Let's look at the first paper we have for this morning. Daily Sun says, suspended Minister Betta Edu whisked away in security truck. Denied access to Tinubu, Aso Rock tag withdrawn. President directs Finance Minister to conduct diagnostic investigations. EFCC begins grilling today.
Right, still leading with the humanitarian affairs issue. You better step aside. That's how this Nigeria puts that story. With riders, Tinubu suspends humanitarian affairs and poverty alleviation minister over 585 million naira scandal. Edu denied access to President in Aso Villa. Of course, all other riders to that story. Anambra boat mishap, 4 still missing as NIWA confirms 8 deaths, 38 survivors.
Let's go now to first news, and it's also leading with that story on the 585 million naira scandal. More troubles for Betta Edu as EFCC wades in. Anti-graft agency summons minister 30 minutes after suspension by Tinubu as security aides stop her from meeting president. Withdraw Aso Rock access card. And 37.1 billion naira fraud. Finally, Buhari's minister turns herself in at EFCC headquarters.
I saw that story about Yahya Bello deposing 4 monarchs.
Oh, yes.
There. All right, the Daily Times, Edu in EFCC net over alleged 585 million naira fraud. Also part of, or rather, leading the story, the Daily Times. Nigerian army rejects a posting of 206 generals.
The Nigerian Express also leads with the 585 million naira public fund diversion story. Betta Edu, another one bites the dust. Probe of NSIP claims another scalp as Tinubu suspends humanitarian affairs minister. There's also the story, Forex probe, EFCC raid on Dangote Group, shocking. That's coming from the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria.
All right, the People's Daily chose to lead with a different story. This time he's taking us to Plateau State. Says Plateau massacre. Khan asks a federal government to proscribe armed herdsmen. Says they are terrorists as bandits kill 7 in Benue. Peter Obi's campaign director, Doyin Okukwe, resigns from LP, gives reasons.
Now to the daily assets. Plateau killings. Christians, Muslims throng government house, task Muftwang, blame continual attacks on impunity. That's what Daily Asset leads with this morning. And of course, when you go below the picture story there, Aso Villa turns back Edu shortly after sack to be grilled by EFCC.
All right, how's the Nigerian News Director leading? It chose to go to the former central bank governor on lawful detention. The paper says court awards 100 million naira damages to Emefiele. We detained him with a valid court order, EFCC replies. Also, you have other stories. NCC issues 14-day warning to operators illegally utilizing 5.4 GHz frequency band. On page 21.
The Nigerian Tribune also leads with the Betta Edu story, saying she may face EFCC today. Tinubu dismisses Irukera Oko, and that's talking about the dismissal of the Consumer Protection Commission and the Bureau of Public Enterprises CEO, which took place with immediate effect on Monday.
With the picture story about the Plateau issue there, the protest.
Yeah, the protests in Plateau.
Yeah, interesting one there. The Guardian are also leading with EFCC quizzes and battled Edu, others as anti-graft uproar heightens. Then you have NERC cancels Disco's license over 110 billion naira debt, appoints sole administrator. Security guard backs life imprisonment over sexual assault, and a whole lot of other stories as captured by The Guardian on its front page. And then we'll bring in our reviewers now. Gentlemen, welcome. Expectedly so, we see the issue of the embattled Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation making almost all the papers, except for the few that choose not to lead with that. So, and there are so many riders. So the fact that she's been denied access to the president, where she went there after sack. Is this sack? It's suspension, really?
Suspension.
Yeah,
but her access card has also been
I don't know why some
drawn.
people are using sack already as investigations continue. So this is one of the stories that made the headlines, and then the Emefiele issue as well. So which one should we start with this morning, gentlemen?
Of course, it's the story of the day. I think we should focus on, there's a twist the Sun gave to the story, which is unique to the Sun. You know, better do weeks away in security truck.
It seems to be the only paper that captured that side of the story. Yes.
I was in the newsroom till late last night. Where the story ended, from the information we had, was that he was torn away and his access clearance card withdrawn. That he was whisked away in a security truck, which amount to being arrested, was not in the news. So I'm surprised that Son got this story or played up the story the way it has done, which is, anyway, it's still a developing story. Maybe before midday we'll be able to get the true picture of things, whether she was arrested, as at yesterday, or whether she was just allowed to go and appear before the EFCC this morning.
I think this day also wrote that story.
Okay, play it up like this.
About her departure from unusual departure from the State House on Monday, saying that she was denied access to the president right at the president's office after scaling through all other security checks. And then she was taken out of the villa in a security vehicle.
So it could amount to an arrest. It could amount to an arrest. I don't know why we are looking at, you know, what actually played out yesterday, whether it was an arrest or an invitation by the EFCC. It's a story we need to, as the media, we need to pay attention to, because all along we've sat on this platform and we've criticized the Tinubu administration for its seemingly incapacity to tackle the issue of corruption.
She took you all by surprise. He took you all by surprise,
yes.
right?
If what happened yesterday had not happened, I would have come here and accused President Bola Ahmed Tinubu of being involved in the theft or alleged theft of 585 million and other allegations in that Ministry of Humanitarian.
Dr. Maho, I think the issue of theft may not have come in yet.
Yeah, that's why I say alleged theft.
Because
not theft,
even the allegation against her is the transfer of public funds into a private account.
You are right. But what I'm trying to say is there are allegations that there was an attempt to steal that money, to misappropriate that money. Let's use official language, to misappropriate that money. But the point is this: the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, right from the Buhari administration to date, has become like a slush fund where funds are allocated to the ministry, and it ends up somewhere. It amounts to stealing in the name of the poor, which is unfortunate. Let's just go back. I just wanted us to look at, since that ministry came into existence, let's take the allocation to the ministry from 2020, 2021 to date. In 2020, the ministry got an allocation of 376 billion. 2021, 465 billion. 2022, 514 billion. 2023, 382 billion. 2024, 135 billion. Coming to in 3 years, this is from the budget office, these statistics. So in a total of about 4 or 5 years, the ministry have gotten an allocation of almost 2 trillion naira, 2 trillion. Managed, this fund managed by 2 women. The former minister, Hajia Sadiq Umar, and the now femme fatale, Betta Edu. So the question is, this huge allocation of almost 2 trillion in the last 4 or 5 years, how has it been impactful? How has it reduced or attended to the problem of poverty in the country? Or this money was just slush funds that was used, move the money out of the system, and politicians have access to it after it has been allocated. And why is it that, another question we should be asking ourselves is, why is it that the ministry got all its allocation so fast compared to other ministry that has, when it talks in terms of benefit analysis to the public? What benefit has this ministry with this huge allocation been able to have on the public? So these are questions I think the media should begin to interrogate going into the future. However, like I started, I think we should, since we have been the one criticizing Mr. President for his inability to tackle headlong the issue of corruption, I think we can clap with Mr. President for now with one hand.
Is it possible to clap with one hand?
Until you see the end of the investigation and what happens
for him
after
with
that.
one hand for proving that he's a listening president.
He doesn't talk too much,
yes,
he acts.
He acts.
Maybe.
And he listens to public opinion and acts on it.
Okay. I think he does as well. All right, Alhaji, you share the same view with a doctor?
I think the president took the right step when he suspended the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Ms. Betta Edu, from office, following the public outcry about what looked like financial indiscretion on her part as a minister for violating some of the extant rules of financial regulations that actually governs the Federal Executive Council and its members. So that is quite in order for him to have done that. It's expected of him as a president who swore to uphold the Constitution and the rule of law to actually act in this manner. So he did the right thing. But he has to go the full hog by telling us what has been the outcome of the investigation, and if there are credible evidence of financial or intent to defraud the country, then prosecution should follow conclusively too. At least as a show of faith that he's committed to anti-corruption and that he does not condone corrupt practices. However, beyond just reacting to public opinion, it is important that the president should use this as an opportunity, or what has been unraveled in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs should come to him as like a shock therapy to also look at the other MDAs. Because I do not think that what has happened in this ministry is unique to this ministry. I believe it's like a widespread practice among heads of MDAs. And under his government, there has been a struggle between the permanent secretaries and the ministers over who controls the finances of MDAs, of ministry particularly. It's an ongoing battle between his ministers and his commission and his PAMSECs. And he has to call his ministers to order. Permanent secretaries statutorily are saddled with the responsibility of managing the finances. They're like the chief accounting officers of ministries, not ministers. Ministers are supposed to give leadership in line with the policy direction of the administration and generally supervise the activities to make sure that everything is done in line with rules and regulations. It is not the business of ministers to managing finances. Okay. I also think that in trying to go outside the purview of the permanent secretary of this ministry...
Can I just ask you to deal with one other issue quickly?
Okay.
From what you said just now, does it look like Betta Edu walked into a trap?
In the first instance, I've been very careful about not talking about Betta Edu as a person.
No, but because you said something now
yes.
about the permanent secretaries being the accounting officers of the ministry.
Yes.
So how come that letter was generated and sent to the Accountant General's
yes.
office?
From
Didn't the PAMSEC see it? What about the directors in the ministry?
Because
that's what's going on in my head
simply,
right now.
They can't bring themselves to submit to the administrative procedure that's already been laid out over time, that permanent secretaries are in charge of such responsibilities. And so some of them came from the states. So where you don't have such strict regulations and control, And so they wonder why should I actually wait for a perm state to concur with me before I get money from the accountant office to do whatever I want to do. Again, the lesson here is Mr. President will look at his cabinet, but you appoint people based on political patronage. They begin to see their areas of responsibilities as where they're supposed to actually extract from for certain political compensation reasons. So I don't want to talk about the young lady so much. But one thing I want to say is that this ministry called Ministry of Human Affairs, Humanitarian Affairs, and Disaster Management should be scrapped at this point. It should be, we should wind down that ministry. It was not necessary in the first place to be created. It's a country that's as poor as Nigeria, with the overwhelming number of poor people. We have probably more poor people in Nigeria than that are not poor. A country like ours cannot afford this level of social intervention. What you need to do is to invest more in what can actually produce or what can lead to economic productivity enough to pull out people from poverty into sustainable jobs and, sustainable living. And when you've done enough of that over time, then whoever is left in that bracket of, helplessness, people that simply cannot help themselves, even opportunities are there, you cannot begin to talk about social intervention. Right now, we are too poor to even embark on this wild goose chase. And that is why the meager resources available to us is being filtered away through very corrupt means under the guise of
social intervention.
And it's ineffective. I've not seen anybody that's been a beneficiary.
The sad thing for many Nigerians is that this thing is actually supposed to be meant for the poorest of the poor, and it ends up again in the hands of the very few rich.
So let's talk.
Okay, gentlemen, because we will also talk about this on our interview segment.
So let's stop diverting money in the name of the poor.
Okay. Let's see other stories, because it's also about corruption we are talking about, and this issue, alleged forest scandal, how Emefiele exposed Dangote, Boa, others. There's another paper that talked about Emefiele also getting 100 million naira compensation for
court awarding him damages.
Yes, detention. So let's put that together as we analyze this.
If to address this issue, we have to go back to Dangote refinery. Dangote saw an opportunity and wanted to cash in on it. Nigeria as a country, we have 4 refineries. We have refused to maintain those refineries. A lot of people have alleged that those refineries were left to rot as a result of corruption within the oil industry, which you can ascribe to sabotage in some way. However, Dangote came like a knight in shining armor to save the country from its over-dependence on imported petroleum products. So it's supposed to be an opportunity, to rectify the deficiency and our reliance on imported refined product. But how far has it gone? And the whole thing has become a mesh in so much controversy and corruption. This is the same refinery which the former president went to commission in May 2003. And what has remained, one thing that's stuck out.
2023?
Yeah, May 2023.
Okay.
May 2023. That refinery was commissioned. And there's a single line there that a lot of people have drawn the attention of the public to over time. What Emefiele said during the commissioning of that refinery. 2 things. One, they said, we cannot do it. We have done it. The question has always been, who are the we? 2, Dangote borrowed so much money from the CBN. And Emefiele said, Dangote has paid back 70% of the funds he borrowed. He never told us where those funds were borrowed from, whether from the CBN or from a consortium of banks, which, has always put some measure of question in the minds of Nigerians over time about who actually owns that refinery. Was it owned? Because the federal government took some shares in the refinery. Is it that the federal government actually was funding the refinery through the CBN, or Emefiele actually owned the refinery with Dangote? So this has been the question and in the minds of those.
Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you won't miss out any of our latest video.